Here comes the Bruins update. I haven't updated in a while, so I figured I'll do a video instead of trying to write out everything that's been going on, because trust me, if I try to write it, it'll never get down. The Bruins are back. They're back in training camp. They've had 3 preseason games, 1 against Ottawa, 2 against Montreal. Actually, no, they've had 4. My bad. And I can't remember who the other one's against. That's really kind of sad, but oh well. I haven't really been able to pay much attention because I've either been working or haven't been able to find a feed to watch the game, or it hasn't been on 98.5. So I'm gonna wing it on what I've heard. Word out of training camp, the regulars are all looking in fantastic shape, which is to be expected with the short summer they've had. The new guys, aka Joe Corvo and Benoit Pouliot, both seem to have impressed in training camp. I've heard from numerous sources that Benoit Pouliot has been beyond exceptional to a lot of the coaching staff during training camp. They were very impressed with not only his work ethic, the way he hustled, and just his overall skill and talent level, which is high. He wouldn't have been picked 4th overall if he wasn't talented. Now, I do have a beef. And yes, I'm going to use the term beef, because I feel like the Bruins are going to fall into the same trap they fell into last season, which is they played really well in front of Timmy in the 1 preseason game Timmy played. They lost Tuukka's first game in overtime. They scored 1 goal. 1. And in his last game, it took them a little bit, but they managed to produce in front of Tuukka. I have this underlying fear, and it's not just because I'm a Tuukka fan, which is pretty obvious to most people, but I have this underlying fear that for some reason the Bruins won't be able to produce in front of both goaltenders. And it needs to change. The story of last season was the team not producing in front of Tuukka. Tuukka did everything he could, and they still scored an entire goal a game less in front of him than they did for Timmy. They played better defensively, they played more soundly, and they're really gonna depend on Tuukka this season. They have to. I love Tim to death, but Tim is not 25 anymore. He can't carry the load the way that everybody will want him to. And Tuukka is more than capable of carrying, I honestly think, half of the load. I honestly believe they could split it 50-50. 42 games each. Or 41 games each. 82 games season. 42 games each. Honestly, split it right down the middle. I mean, 2 years ago was not an aberration. And as much as people want to say it was, if you look at Tuukka's numbers from last year, yeah, his numbers weren't great. He lost more games than he won, but he was still better than over half of the goalies in the league. Over half. I think he was 17th overall in goals against average. That's a guy who lost over 10 games last season. He only played 27. So I honestly believe that they need to give Tuca more trust. The team needs to trust him, and the coaching staff needs to trust him, and they need to play better in front of him, because they haven't done that in over a year, and your goalie can only do so much. I do want to talk about Benoit Pouliot, because I was hesitant when I first heard we signed him. I'll be honest, not really sure what he was going to do. The more I saw what he could do, what he was capable of doing, the more excited I got. He's not going to be a Nathan Horton. Sorry. But you pair him with the right center, he's going to do some really good things. Which is why, if I were the coach, as much as I like having my 19-year-old star on the wing of Patrice Bergeron, I honestly believe if you put Benoit Pouliot on that line with Marchand and Bergeron, they could really do something. Bergeron is the type of center that will bring out the best in a player. The same way David Krejci did it with Nathan Horton. You know you're not going to break that first lineup. There's no way you could break that first lineup. Which, by the way, Nathan Horton needs to shoot more. Great, you were a great teammate last year, and you proved your worth. Now please, shoot. That's what we brought you here for. Do it. I like the line of Benoit Pouliot, Patrice Bergeron, and Marchand. Because I love Chris Kelly and Rich Beverly together. They were fantastic from the minute they stepped on the ice together last season. And I really don't like breaking up the combination of Chris Kelly and Tyler Seguin because they played so well together. So, Claude obviously has some decisions to make. We know the fourth line is not going to be broken up. They proved, especially in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals last season, there is no way you can break them up. You can't. He's got some decisions to make. While we're on the topic of decisions, the locker room has a decision to make. As we all know, Mark Recchi has retired, which means that another alternate captain needs to be picked. Claude has already come out and said it is going to be decided in the locker room, which I think is exactly where it needs to be decided. I honestly believe that captains and alternate captains should be picked by the players themselves, because the players know the guys that are going to talk and everybody's going to listen. Zdeno Chara talks and everybody listens. Patrice Bergeron, of course everybody listens when he talks. Here's my vote for the new alternate captain. I have two suggestions, because my first vote, and the one I really would like to see happen, is for Sean Thornton to get the A. Everybody's going to say, well, you never see an enforcer with an A, and he's not really an offensive guy. He's the guy, more than anybody else probably in that locker room, that talks and everybody shuts up. They listen and they do whatever he says, because they know A, he's been around the block, B, he's been up and down between the AHL and the NHL enough. He's seen almost everything. And he's a guy that everybody knows he's got their back, whether it's on the ice or in the locker room. No, he's not an offensive threat, but he's one of the most if not the most respected guy in that locker room. And I think that speaks a lot to how players will vote for the alternate captain. Now, if it's not Sean Thornton, it's late, sorry. It's not Sean Thornton. I honestly believe they should have an alternating in. And here's why. You can make a strong case for Andrew Ferentz. You can make a strong case for Dennis Seidenberg. You can make a strong case for a lot of guys on that team. There is one guy in particular who's new to the team, or was new last year. He's been here a year, proven his worth. No, he's not an offensive threat, but again, he's a Sean Thornton type. He speaks, guys listen. He sticks up for his teammates. He knows what's right. And I honestly believe that if you can't fully decide on Sean Thornton or Andrew Ferentz, because there's a very good explanation as to why Andrew Ferentz could get the A. I honestly believe rotate it between Sean Thornton, Gregory Campbell, Andrew Ferentz, and either Dennis Seidenberg or Chris Kelly, both of whom have an excellent resume and are veterans that everybody's going to look up to and listen to. So, there's a couple of suggestions as to who could get the A, what should happen with the A. It's up for debate. We'll see what happens when the season comes. Bruins have a couple more preseason games before the regular season starts. Regular season starts October 6th. Everybody catch it, because banner raising. That's all I've got to say. Go Bruins.